I think a lot of people will not expect that. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, though. But I should say that, no, so I'm not agreeing with Michael Saylor that Bitcoin is forever going up. That is not realistic. The model that I follow for cycles, the cyclical model that I follow is Elliott wave theory, but that's only if Bitcoin stays above support as the level I just showed on that chart. I do not want to be one of those people who makes videos to just please the audience. What I like to do is analyze the charts and tell the story of the chart. What is the chart saying to me? I could be wrong, of course, but what is the chart saying? The best indicator out there, people might be shocked that I say this, but
guys, welcome back to another show. Today I'm here with one of my favorite analysts, Alessio. Benvenuto. How you doing, man?
Grazie mille, piacere. So yeah, thanks very much for inviting me. Grazie per l'invitazione. My Italian is not as good as it should be. I'm still learning.
I've seen your recent video about Bitcoin breaking a key level of resistance, which is the 21 weekly moving average. Can you let us know a little bit more about it?
I have your chart. I took a screenshot today of of Bitcoin's chart, and as you correctly say, we're approaching 100,000. And again, I got very bullish on Bitcoin when it managed to go above the 21 weekly moving average, the weekly chart. And to be honest with you, even though at this time, when Bitcoin was dropping down here below 78 and 80,000, I thought it might go to 70. I was a bit disappointed it didn't go to 70,000 because I would have liked to have maybe bought a bit more at that level. But anyway, it managed to finally break this 88K and this 21 weekly moving average, and that's a good sign. And it's important because Bitcoin, I mentioned this a few weeks ago, Bitcoin needs to stay above this blue line when it gets above it to remove any risk of a false break or failure of, for example, if you look back over here in summer of last year, Bitcoin went above the 21 weekly, and then a week or two later, it collapsed below it again. And when it happens, that's a sign of either risk, more downside risk, or it could be a sign of sideways consolidation, which is what happened. It went sideways for some time, and then finally it broke out. But the good news is that on this occasion, Bitcoin has managed to get above the 21 weekly on the right-hand side, and it's managed to stay above the 21 weekly, the blue line. So I think as I said, I said this a few weeks ago, I think the odds are the bottom was in a couple of weeks ago when it managed to break above 88K and the 21 weekly. And it looks like it's now starting a major rally to new highs. I think quite probably we could see at least 120K in the next several weeks, as long as it stays above 88K. So I think as long as Bitcoin holds above 88K, I'm maintaining a long-term perspective for the next several months, minimum target of 120. And we'll see what happens at that level. I also need to see Ethereum getting above its resistance because I like to see confirmation. Ethereum hasn't done that just yet. Ethereum, as a matter of fact, broke support, this trendline support. We're getting some nice rally going this recently. But I want to see Ethereum get above this resistance trend line and these levels of resistance, like 2150, 2250. So until Ethereum gets above those levels, I cannot be as bullish as I want to be on crypto or Bitcoin. If Ethereum confirms the action by Bitcoin by getting above its 21 weekly moving average, which is currently 2250, and getting above 20. So basically what I need to see on Ethereum is I need to see the price getting above 2150, getting above 2250 and above this trend line. That would give a very strong, powerful indication that we're going to go, that would be a very bullish, positive indication for Ethereum and also Bitcoin, if it can do that. But I should say this, if Ethereum fails to get above this resistance, and I don't know if I can annotate on this chart, that probably I can't, but if it gets into this level and then fails and rolls over again, if it comes to this resistance and fails, rolls over, that would be a dangerous sign for Ethereum. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. The two things that made me very bullish on Bitcoin some weeks ago was capitulation in early April. I mentioned this at the time in my videos. We saw capitulation 2025. This is courtesy of Jason Geppert, sentiment trader. He mentioned in early April that we had capitulation on the stock market, on the S&P, when the stock market collapsed. So usually capitulation is a bear market killer. So a lot of people have been talking about bear markets. What they did not realize, and I think the news media did not understand this or did not know about this. Most people were not ready for this or aware of this. That when you get capitulation, the odds of a bear market become significantly reduced. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It is possible, but when you get capitulation in combination with a severe drop or a bear market, then capitulation usually wins, and it overrides any bear market signal. For now, anyway. Again, this is time sensitive. But for now, the probability of a bear market has been reduced. Now, let's say in a few weeks, or let's say in several weeks or several months, if the stock market, for example, makes a new low, which I doubt, I don't think it's going to happen. But if the stock market were to make a new low, that would change things. That would mean that the market is ignoring the capitulation signal, which is not a good sign. That would be a very bearish sign. But I should say that's a hypothetical. I don't think it's likely. I've said this a few weeks ago. I said this back in early April. The capitulation signal was a sign that the bear market ended in the stock market, and because I'm bullish on the stock market because of capitulation, I'm also bullish on Bitcoin as well. That's why I'm showing this chart in relation to the stock market, because if the stock market remains strong, that's a good sign for Bitcoin as well. And finally, this is something I showed in my video some weeks ago as well, back in early April. I mean, we saw the CNN Fear and Greed Index drop to 4. I think it went to 3 as well. But anyway, that's such a low reading that also shows a lot of people became too panicky. They sold and they capitulated, and that's a good sign generally for the stock market and Bitcoin as well. The same thing I think happened on Bitcoin as well. We saw a lot of fear on Bitcoin at the time as well. So overall, I would say these factors are supporting the bullish case for Bitcoin to higher levels. I mean, 100K was the first target. Then I think quite likely we could see 110 and 120 in the next several weeks. But I should say that's only if Bitcoin stays above 88K, because any break of 88K, which I don't think is going to happen, I don't expect this, but if Bitcoin was to break below 88K, I would have to change my mind, because that would be a bearish sign if it broke below 88 and 85K. But for now, again, I'm not expecting that drop below support. I'm expecting an uptrend to continue here on Bitcoin to higher levels, to 110, 120. Minimum targets, but potentially. But anyway, that's what I think. As long as we stay above that 21 weekly, that moving average, the blue line, and 88K, then I think we can maintain a bullish and positive view on Bitcoin, despite any pullbacks that might happen overall. And as I said, just to wrap this up, I want to see what Ethereum does as well. I want to see Ethereum confirm this by breaking above resistance too. Hasn't done that just yet. We'll see what happens.
Fantastic. Manuel, by the way, came on the show and he connected us. By the way, thank you, gracias, Manuel. And he explained the down theory about the confirmation. So the audience should be very familiar with it. So the 21 weekly average should be the line that we have to hold if we want to continue the rally. And in case we are breaking, which is 88,000, then we would go and reassess a possible downtrend, right? Because that's the number we want to catch. You mentioned 120. Do you think that's your top target for the cycle?
No, it's not my top target. There are people I know. There's one analyst that I quite like. I interviewed him recently, Zach Meir. He's much more bullish, calling for 150K. It's possible, but I'm going to keep it conservative and modest for now. 120 is quite achievable in my view. But again, you're quite right, by the way, Maurizio. You're absolutely right that, as I say in Italia, hai ragione.
There you go.
That Bitcoin needs to stay above that blue line, the weekly moving average, to keep that momentum and keep the bullish perspective alive. Because again, I'm just saying this as a hypothetical. If Bitcoin was to drop below that blue line, 88K or approximately that level, it would be a major sign of risk that something is not right. So it needs to stay above that. But overall, I think the odds are seemingly increasing that that drop below 80K and 78K was a false break. I think that was a whipsaw false break. So I'm looking now for this uptrend and momentum to continue for now. My Manuel Bly, again, I quite like him. I talk with him as well. He's great, by the way, when it comes to charts of Bitcoin, the stock market. He mentioned something quite interesting. He said that he might see trouble in the stock market maybe in the summer period. Although I should say he said this in March. before capitulation occurred. But he did mention that there might be signs of trouble in the market, maybe in the summer period, maybe by the end of the summer period. We shall see. Maybe we get recession. If we get a recession indication in the summer, we don't know yet. There are uncertainties at the moment. But I should say that I think Manuel Bly would also agree with this. Because of capitulation in the stock market, that typically ends bear markets. So for now, the indications are for much higher levels in the next several months. I'm remaining cautiously bullish for the next several months on the markets, Bitcoin and the stock markets anyway.
I don't know if you've seen on X, I keep want to say Twitter, but there has been a M2 money supply and Bitcoin overlap on I think it's on the 80 days. So everyone is expecting a huge rally, which so far, I don't want to jinx it, so far we've seen a push towards the upside. And of course, gold also went in a rampage lately. So maybe we'll go up. I want to ask you also something, because I know you cover Bitcoin quite extensively, and I've seen the interview you're talking about. You mentioned Plan B on 250, right? So you're asking the guest, hey, how likely is that
Hey,
that we're going higher, right? Good interview, by the way.
thank
I'm
you.
thinking Bitcoin has been trapped into this 4-year cycle, right? We move into the 4-year cycles, and now we have the ETFs, we have Trump pushing, we have Michael Saylor, we have Bukele, we have counters accumulating. Do you think, is it possible that we break free from the 4-year cycle and we enter the so-called super cycle and we just go up forever? How likely that will be?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Michael Saylor and Plan B, they're super bulls. Although Plan B is more, I would say, more balanced in his analysis. And what I mean is, he's not like hardcore. Oh, Michael Saylor is hardcore. He's like, no, Bitcoin is forever going up. I don't agree with that point of view at all. I think people will. I think the next bear market that occurs in the stock market and the economy and Bitcoin is going to be devastating. I think people will have to get used to sometime in the next few years. I mean, sometime in the next 2 to 5 years, Bitcoin I think will return back to 20K in the bear market, in the recessionary, depressionary bear market cycle. I think a lot of people will not expect that. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, though. I mean, this year, no, I'm bullish on Bitcoin. But I think in the next bear market cycle that affects the stock market and economy, people will be shocked to see that Bitcoin will eventually drop below 50K and eventually to 20K. And that would be an opportunity in my view. But I should say that, no, so I'm not agreeing with Michael Saylor that Bitcoin is forever going up. That is not realistic. Plan B is more honest and more, I would say, more balanced in his view, in a sense that he sees a potential bear market as well, sometime if it occurs. The only thing I would disagree with Plan B is about the stock to flow model, which is the stock to flow model that he shows indicates potentially 250K or 250K this year. I don't agree with that. And I would rather keep it more conservative, more in the region of 120 to 150K for this year. As for the super cycle, I really don't know. It's possible that there may be a super cycle, but the thing is, the model that I follow for cycles, the cyclical model that I follow is Elliott wave theory. That may not be the same cycle that you're following, perhaps. But I mean, put it this way: it's possible that my view could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about Bitcoin not going to 200, 250K. Maybe Plan B is right about it going to 200, 250. I try to keep an open mind. The reason is sometimes Bitcoin does things that nobody expects. Sometimes analysts can be completely wrong about their expectations. I mean, I did not expect Bitcoin to go as high as it did some years ago. I was quite shocked myself. This was when Bitcoin went to 60K. It went way above my target expectation. But in any case, my point is that I've learned a lesson that analysts need to be always prepared for the possibility that they could be wrong on their expectations. So, yeah, it's possible I might be wrong, that maybe Bitcoin does go to 200, 250K as Plan B thinks. So there is that possibility. But I think it's less likely. I think from a probability perspective, I just don't think it's going to be likely this year in 2025. So when I say it's not likely for 200, 250K, I'm only mentioning for this year, 2025. Future years, I really don't know. Yeah, it's possible. From an Elliott wave perspective, for now, I'm going to keep it conservative. I'm seeing 120, 150K potentially. But that's only if Bitcoin stays above support as the level I just showed on that chart.
The
Yeah,
21 weekly, yeah, I agree. And
yeah,
also, I will also argue it's much better to be surprised than overshoot, right? I remember in the previous cycle, everybody was expecting 100K. It's much better, I think, to say, hey, we go into 120, and if we do go indeed to 200,000, well, then great. As long as you plan your profit accordingly, right? So I think it makes
And also
sense.
I would say the best indicator out there. People might be shocked that I say this, but I think the best indicator out there is not even the charts. It's the comments on social media, the comments on YouTube. I read them, and I want to see how people react to my videos or other people's videos. So when a lot of people disagree and ridicule the analyst and they say, no, you don't know what you're talking about, Bitcoin is going to crash or Bitcoin is going to go up. So I think these usually happen at extremes,
Yeah.
in extreme movements, when the crowd, when the comments heavily ridicule and attack the analyst that's making the video. That's the time to be extremely cautious. That usually is a great indicator, because it shows that maybe we're coming to a top or a bottom, uh, depending on what kind of movement the market's making. So, for example, near tops, you see a lot of comments from people saying, "Oh, it's going to go," like they will just take the target much higher. They'll double
Million
it.
dollar.
Exactly. You'll see a
Yeah.
million dollar on targets, or 300, 500, people will say. And near bottoms, you see people saying, yeah, I saw these comments myself. Bitcoin is going to crash to, I heard comments, Bitcoin saying it to 4K or zero even. I saw those kind of comments again,
Yeah.
which is really interesting. So I saw the same comments on Tesla as well. So when Tesla was crashing hard, you saw a lot of people, they're attacking Elon Musk. So saying this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Somebody should do something about him. Tesla is going to go to 60 or 50, or so. You see this kind of heckling comments from people. And again, the same exact opposite at tops on Tesla. When Tesla was massively surging near a top, I was reading the comments. People were saying, "Yeah, Elon Musk is a genius. This guy is going to take Tesla up to 1,000." And Alessio doesn't know what he's talking about, because I was actually warning that Tesla was reaching a point where it might turn, and people were attacking me, saying, "No, no, Elon Musk is a genius. You don't know what you're talking about, Alessio." So my point is that you read the comments on social media, on YouTube. When you see a lot of people saying the same thing, extremely over bullish or over bearish, that can be a phenomenal indicator that something is not quite right, and that's the time to do the opposite of everybody else.
I love this, the time to pivot when the social consensus goes in a direction. I'm more like with you. I'm trying to be more conservative this bull cycle. What I find interesting is depending on the next target, I think we'll see a diminishing in return and or in the movements. For example, we've seen since the inception 2009, Bitcoin has gone in the beginning super fast, super high, right? Violent moves. And then towards the year, kind of soften those moves on the upside. But at the same time, we corrected less. I'm not expecting a 90% correction in Bitcoin coming in because there will be a bear market. Nothing goes up forever. I agree with you. People agree, they take profit. But it will be interesting to see what's going to happen with the US, because, of course, Trump is going to impact short term, because I think Bitcoin in 10 years does not care about politics. But in the short term, well, whatever happens affects the price, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said. One thing I would just add is, one thing I've learned is that people will use fundamentals. I don't mean you, by the way. I mean people on social media. What I've seen a lot of what people do is they use fundamentals to justify their sentiment. So the problem is that a lot of people have not learned this lesson that I learned, unfortunately, a bit too late. When I say late, I mean I wish I'd learned it sooner. So I used to be of the view that that market prices are driven by news and fundamentals. And then I realized through hard mistakes that no, it just is not right. It's not the news or fundamentals that drives the price. It's sentiment, the psychology of the herd, the psychology of the people. In other words, emotions, greed, fear, anxiety, panic, euphoria. This is what drives. The social mood is what drives the price. And what people will do, I've seen this happen all the time. People will use news and fundamentals to justify their own sentiment. So, for example, when Bitcoin was near highs, when it was surging, the same with the stock market and other markets too. So when prices rallying higher and higher, like Bitcoin, for example, people will use fundamentals and news to justify why it's going to go much higher. they'll say things like, "Oh yeah, these funds," they'll say these investors and institutions are buying into Bitcoin, so it's going to go much higher. It doesn't work like that. Markets are not markets, Bitcoin or stock markets, whatever. They do not follow common sense rationality. It doesn't work like that. Oh, it's because the news and fundamentals say this, therefore price is going to go much higher. In fact, usually markets will do the opposite. They will surprise everybody. The same thing, by the way, the same thing occurs in reverse. When price is crashing and falling, what people will do is they use fundamentals and news, especially news, to justify why price is going to go even lower. So I was, for example, with Tesla, when Tesla was crashing, they were saying, as long as Elon Musk is in control of Tesla, it's going to go even lower. As long as Elon Musk does not control what he says, it's going to go even lower. Again, they're using news and fundamentals to justify what the price, even though they don't appreciate it's their own, it's fear and greed. That's actually what's driving the price, and also what makes it bottom and top eventually as well. So anyway, but I just want to add that as a precaution, because your viewers, I want them to be informed that be careful when people use fundamentals and news to justify why the price is going to do something. Ignore those justifications. Uh, Look at what the chart is telling you. Look at the charts. Look at the sentiment. That's really what's important.
It's such a
So
good point. I mean, I told you off camera earlier before we started recording, I used to build software for a living, right? And I remember there was a time where we used to do a lot of user testing, and we used to call people in the studio to test software, validate what we've designed so far. And it's interesting, we had to, this was back in the days, now it's common knowledge, but we actually had to build a research department, and those people were Switzerland. They did not build the software, they did not have anything to do with it, they just wanted to collect evidence, because if we put the designers, they designed the software, they would find in data what they wanted to find in data, right? So we had to build a Switzerland of department. The people
yeah,
paid
yeah,
not to have an opinion, they have not invested any time in building it. So like you said, if you are a bull, you will subconsciously, maybe even consciously, go and read bullish news and justify your behavior because you are
absolutely.
invested, right?
You're absolutely correct. I've actually noticed this is something I've discovered recently. I did not actually know this until it dawned on me. A lot of people watch YouTube videos about the markets. Mostly, I think that the number one reason I think people watch these technical analysis, or actually any kinds of videos, really, like what I'm talking about, the forecasts. I think a lot of the number one reason why people watch these prediction videos or forecast analysis videos, whether it's technical analysis or fundamental analysis, is because they want to have their own views. They want to have their own beliefs confirmed. So they want that extra degree of confirmation bias. So they want someone to agree with them. And so, for example, what often I've noticed is people who are very bullish on Bitcoin or the markets, they will watch videos because they want someone to tell them, yeah, it's going to go up. And when the analyst does not say that, when the analyst says, no, no, it's going to go down, the opposite, they will then attack the analyst, say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. And they will scream, or they're and then the opposite too. The opposite too. When Bitcoin or the market's dropping, and the analyst says the opposite of what they expect, again, you'll see the analyst become attacked, or being criticized. In other words, so I think a lot of people just generally watch these videos on YouTube, like my videos, because they want me to confirm what they already believe. I noticed this with gold, by the way. With gold, they wanted me to say that gold is going to go a lot higher, to 5,000, to 10,000, and when I came out and said, no, I think we're going to see a correction, a correction down to maybe 3,000 or something like that, they were getting really angry with me. They were saying, no, no, Alessio, you don't know what you're talking about. So this is the thing that I've noticed. The reason I mention this is because I do not want to be one of those people who makes videos to just please the audience. And you're not either. I'm sure you're not either. You want to make videos that actually something you yourself believe, and something that's honest and reliable. Because the charts, the markets, they don't care what we think, as you know. Yeah, the charts or Bitcoin or stock market, they don't care whether we're bullish or bearish. They will do their own thing. So I refuse to make videos just because my audience wants, like, if the audience want Bitcoin to go up, I refuse to do what they want. And my job or what I like to do, I don't think of it as a job. I love what I'm doing, but what I like to do is analyze the charts and tell tell the story of the chart. What is the chart saying to me? I could be wrong, of course, but what is the chart saying? Is the chart bullish or is it bearish? And that's what I try to do. I don't care whether the audience likes it or not. That's not. It's not about pleasing people. That's not what I'm trying to do here.
And that's why I watch your channel, by the way.
That's very kind.
But Alessio, grazie mille. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Like I said to you, I've been watching your content since forever. So it's been an honor having you today on the show.
Yeah, thank you. And it was great to talk to you, and very interesting discussion. And I hope that I've been able to contribute something interesting and useful to your audience.
Absolutely. Guys, as always, in the description, you will find the Alessio channel. Make sure you go and give him a follow. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next one.